First of all, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the sponsors, Graziani family, the Schimmel family, and thank you very much for joining. Welcome to everyone. We were in the middle of discussing the Tzemach Tzedek with the frightening stories that happened with the Haskalah movement. The Haskalah movement was the Enlightenment movement, and what kind of troubles, unfortunately, they caused to all the Jews, and they fought the Tzemach Tzedek specifically more than anybody else. One of the things that they did, and this was, the Chassidim had no choice. Already since the Alter Rebbe's days, when the Misnagdim caused a lot of trouble to the Chassidim had to plant spies, literally spies amongst the Misnagdish groups. And that was not so hard because everybody almost dressed, people dressed similarly, right?
Yeah, you still go on davening with that.
Correct. So that was easier. Then they had to also put spies down by the Maskilim. In addition to that, the Tzemach Tzedek, who ran everything in a very organized way, also had people go to Petersburg on business and become very friendly with whoever they can in the government. Try to become friendly with some ministers so that they can help out for the Yidden all over Russia. So now that we know that, the Maskilim also, unfortunately, sent out spies to amongst the Yidden, but specifically Lubavitch, specifically the Tzemach Tzedek in the city of Lubavitch, and that's what we left off last time. So we'll start over here that in 1840 is 3 years approximately before the main part of the story, which was the conference of Rabbonim, where the Tzemach Tzedek went. And let's remember, before we even get to it, that even though the Tzemach Tzedek was in Sakonas Nefashos, in great danger, and he spoke very strongly against the ministers, but in the end of that conference, the Tzemach Tzedek, Baruch Hashem, it was a big miracle that Tzemach Tzedek won. That means that nothing was given in to the Haskalah movement. But it wasn't, it wasn't so easy. As we all know, he was Mesiras Nefesh. And even later on, after that meeting, there were still certain things that happened that was very tough. But let's go back now to where we were holding. So 1840 is exactly 3 years before that conference. The conference took place in 1843. In 1840, in the month of Cheshvan, beginning of the winter in Lubavitch, a certain Jew moved in there. Lubavitch wasn't a, what do they call it?
Destination?
No, Lubavitch wasn't a private city. Anybody who wants to can go, you get yourself a house and you go and live there.
Yeah, what to buy.
Or to buy, yeah.
Or to rent.
Or rent, yeah. They had Yidden there that weren't Chassidim from Lubavitch. Mostly it was from a Yidden who wanted to, in those days there was a lot more religious Jews. Jewish people in the community were mostly religious. So in Lubavitch moved in a certain man who came from Zamut, a certain city. He was about 50 years old when he moved in there, and him and his wife both acted like Yirei Shamayim, like God-fearing people. Morning and evening they would come to shul to daven. The man's name was Lipa Feldman. I think that it was probably the last name, the family name was really Feldman. Lipman could be a first name, I'm not 100% sure. He was a very talented maker of candles. He made candles. In those days, candles were made out of fat, animal fat. And when he came, he opened his little company over there of making candles, and they were making very good candles he was producing. And he suggested to Baruch Shalom, the oldest son of the Tzemach Tzedek, to become a partner with him. And he did. The Tzemach Tzedek agreed to Baruch Shalom to become a partner. So this Lippman Feldman did it all with intention. It wasn't good intentions. So he became close to the Rebbe's family because of Rebbe Baruch Shalom. He would come into the Rebbe's families. He would donate candles to all of the Rebbe's children for Shabbos. And in those days there were no lights yet. There was no electricity yet, so candles were used not only for Shabbos, but he specifically gave them for Shabbos. And he got a good name, not only in Lubavitch, but in surrounding counties. And they make very good candles. He would also donate candles to the 3 shuls in the city of Lubavitch and to the barchim of the yeshiva. There was no official yeshiva like Tzemach Tzedek, but there was a yeshiva of the Tzemach Tzedek that barchim would come and learn. He would give out those candles for free. His wife was called Basia Miriam. That's what she called herself. We don't know for sure. And she used to give out every Erev Shabbos on Friday. She would give out free candles to all the women that don't have enough money, that are poor. He should give it out for free. The man hired, this Lipman hired a few workers to do his work, and he trained them. And he himself was always hanging out in shul, always hanging out in Tzemach Tzedek's estate, sort of, from the family, always going to visit the achsanyos, homes where they hosted guests that came to the Tzemach Tzedek. He would go and hang out there, Chassidim Fabring and so on and so forth. The Chassidim used to go to these achsanyos, have Fabringen together, review the memorim of the Tzemach Tzedek, tell over Chassidish stories. He used to tell everyone, I'm a simple person, I don't know how to learn, and therefore I enjoy very much being amongst the Chassidim, where where the scholars are. And because of the way he behaved, everybody would give him respect, and when he came to a place, everybody would give him a comfortable place, and so on and so forth, because he acted so kindly and so nicely, and specifically with poor people. Now, every year, he came in Chodesh Cheshvan. In Teves Shvat, middle of the winter, there used to be a big market date in Lubavitch. And since Lubavitch itself is close to the border of, I think it's called White Russia, but I'm not 100% sure. But in Russia itself, there's certain parts of the country, and it's like a border. Even today, there's a border. You can go from Moscow to Lubavitch without a problem. You go another 10 miles, and you have to have a visa to go into the next part of Russia, which I think is Belarusia, but I'm not sure. Huh?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't. And they don't give visas to strangers, only to Russians to get in there. It's not easy. Anyway, so this Lipman left from Lubavitch, and the business, he had a relative who was also a talented candle maker, and he would come there to Lubavitch to take over, and Lipman left. Where did he leave to? It doesn't say, but from the story you can figure out that he went to report what he saw in Lubavitch. Other Rishain,
Somebody would take his place?
his relative. He had a relative that came to Lubavitch, and he would take care of the business. Chodesh Other Rishon of that year, this is 1840, Lipman came back from his trip, and his relative was still working there. And this Lipman himself, he left it to the relative to make the candles, and he himself would spend hours upon hours in the shuls amongst the guests, especially amongst the guests who would come for yichidus from far and near to the Tzemach Tzedek to ask questions, to ask for blessings, and so on. And he would always go around. He was very curious. He wanted to know what they came for. What are they asking the Tzemach Tzedek? What kind of advice is the Tzemach Tzedek giving them? And every Fabreina of the Chassidim, he used to participate. Only when his relative would take candles to go sell it in the nearby cities of Yidden, that's when he would go and get involved in the making of the candles. So this is other Rishon. Other Sheni, this is Lubavitch, this Feldman guy. Other Sheni of that same year, this is 1840, Tafresh, the Chassidim of Vilna, which is a distance away, found out through one of their spies, the Chassidish spies, a young Chassid who became a spy, not only amongst the Maskilim, but it wasn't so bad now, but the Maskilim weren't making so much trouble now, or not any trouble at all. So they had spies amongst the Maskilim. How they did that, I can't figure out exactly.
James Bond stories.
Yeah.
Spies.
Yes, they learned everything from the Yidden. All these stories, the Goyish stories, they learned from the Yidden. The Yidden, unfortunately, are the ones that had to do this. From Heintige Parsha, this week's Parsha, what happened? Moshe Rabbeinu sent spies. So all stories come from Torah, even the crazy stories. Really, is a source in Torah for everything. Some people use it out in a bad way. So one of the Jungelite, a young Chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek, was a spy by the Maskilim, to find out all the time, to know what they're up to, because otherwise, if you don't know what they're up to, it can hit you, chas v'shalom, like a ton of bricks. So he found out that the Maskilim had just informed the government, in other words, prepared a report against Tzemach Tzedek personally. Not only that, but they were able to get a copy of this information, this, what do they call, that they're informing against Tzemach Tzedek, the Malshinus, the actual report that they gave, And these spies sent a chassid from Vilna who was called Reb Shlomo Moshe. This Reb Shlomo Moshe was a chassid, and he went from Vilna to Lubavitch with a copy of this report that they're giving to the government, the Maskilim. And the Chassidim of Vilna asked him to give it all over, to report it all to the Tzemach Tzedek. Everything that they knew about the Maskilim, what they're doing. By the way, this is only one of those informations or reports they gave to the government, which 3 years later brought up this, what's the word I'm looking for? This led to the 3 year later conference that the government forced the Tzemach Tzedek sort of to come there. It was all because of all these reports and information that the Maskilim gave, whatever it's called. So when Reb Shlomo Moshe came to Lubavitch, this is Adar Sheni of the year 1840, he found there Chassidim, famous Chassidim. These are Chassidim still from the Alter Rebbe's days. One of them is called Reb Yitzchak Isaac of Hamil. Hamil was a very large Jewish city with a lot of Chassidim in it. Reb Baruch Mordechai of Babruisk. These were from the original Chassidim. And they were farbringing in the city of Lubavitch in the home of a Jew called Reb Zalman Bashes. Basha is a lady's name, so it was probably that was his mother.
Or his mother-in-law.
Or his mother-in-law. And these Chassidim, Reb Yitzchak Isaac of Hamil and Reb Baruch Mordechai, stayed in that Reb Zalman's house. It's Reb Zalman Basha's house. Now, even though this Shlomo Moshe, young man who came from Vilna with a special, important mission, knew that it's very, very urgent, right? But he didn't want to right away go and make pain to the Tzemach Tzedek. He's going to have to report it to the Tzemach Tzedek. He said, I'll wait a little bit. And especially, there's such great Chassidim. Rabbi Tzemach Isaac and Baruch Mordechai are in Lubavitch. They happen to be in Lubavitch, Adar Sheni. And not only that, but this Shlomo Moshe found out secretly by the Chassid Moshe Eliyahu Shirman. Who is this Sherman? This Sherman took over in Vilna. He was a wealthy chassid, and he took over in Vilna from Reb Moshe Meislish. We all know Reb Moshe Meislish was a mayor sort of Vilna, and he became a chassid. And so he took over from Reb Moshe Meislish to lead the Hasidic community in Vilna, this Reb Moshe Eliyahu Shirman. He told him in top secret to the Shlomo Moshe, you should go to Lubavitch and give over everything to Tzemach Tzedek. He told him secretly that Reb Yitzchak Isaac of Hamel, this big chassid, and Reb Baruch Mordechai are the top, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, the top of the meat of this vad. How do you say vad? These English words fly out of my mind. Committee. They were from the top of the committee. The leaders of the committee. What? From the people. What? What? They were the top people from this, what did I say, committee to take care of communal affairs, right? And they were sitting in Farbrengen now. So he, Shlomo Moshe, who came just to the Farbrengen in Lubavitch, he decided first he's going to meet with these two Chassidim after the Farbrengen, because they're the top leaders of the committee. And he's going to reveal to them everything that he brought here to the Tzemach Tzedek. And in the meantime, he's going to participate in the Farbrengen. The Farbrengen was done in a very excitable, geschmackier way. You know, the Farbrengen was a real exciting Farbrengen. Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac and Rabbi Baruch Mordechai reviewed two Maimorim that they heard just the last week. The Tzemach Tzedek say two Maimorim, one on Friday afternoon, and one before Kabbalah Shabbos, before L'chon Rama, and one in the morning, Shabbos morning before Shachris. Tzemach Tzedek used to teach a Maimon Chassidus, say a Maimon Chassidus. So they reviewed those two Maimorim, and they also were saying over the Sichos that the Tzemach Tzedek spoke during the Shabbos meal. Not everybody was allowed into those meals, but these two older Chassidim were invited to the meals of the Tzemach Tzedek. And what were they speaking by the Farbrengen, by this Reb Zalman Basha's house in Lubavitch? Lubavitch is a small shtetl.
They were speaking about the Mirage.
No, they were speaking about the life of the early Hasidim in the previous generations and the great suffering that the early Hasidim had from the Misnagdim, both on the right and on the left. Right meaning the Fruma Misnagdim and the left the Maskilim. And they sighed, they complained, these two Hasidim, by this Farbrengen and by every Farbrengen where they were, on the terrible situation that's going on right now. That's what they said by the Farbrengen. that the government is out to get Jewish people to rip them away from Yiddishkeit. They're doing anything they can to capture Jewish children and make them into goyim, to convert them. And they also spoke by this Farbrengen about the cursed Maskilim, Yemach Shemom, who are pushing away Yidden from the inside of Yiddishkeit. And they said this is the words they said. This is their complaint, like. And the Rebbe is busy learning and davening, and he doesn't get involved in communal affairs like in the previous generations. Why did they say that? Because this was the setup. This was a cover for the Tzemach Tzedek, not for him, for the whole system. Yeah. If the Tzemach Tzedek can remain sort of removed from all this, they can ask him advice, and he was amazing. I'm not talking only about spiritually because he's a Rebbe, but he was amazingly intelligent in how to run the show to help Yidden, both against the government and against the Maskilim. As long as he's free, sort of, they can get the things done. So they had to say this. Reb Shlomo Moshe was actually originally a Chassid from a city called Kaidan, which is in Kovna area. And he was a middleman to make businesses, deals, like a real estate agent, whatever it was. And he happened to be very talented when it came to writing, just how to express himself and so on. He was very talented in creating stamps. In those days, stamps were very important. And he was also had a tremendous talent, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, to recognize a person for what he is. He was very smart, this Shlomo Moshe. He would look at a person and observe him a little bit, and he right away figured out what this man does, and if he's real, if he's fake, all that stuff about him. It's already 3 years that this Shlomo Moshe moved over from Kaidan to Vilna. Why? For one purpose. So that he can get the job of being a spy for the Chasidim's benefit amongst both the Misnagdim and the Maskilim, and he was very, very successful. This Shlomo Moshe. He did his job fantastically. During this Farbrengen, he comes to Lubavitch and other Sheni to give a report that they're informing against the Tzemach Tzedek. He's standing by the Farbrengen, and suddenly somebody grabbed his attention. He looked at one of the guests by the Farbrengen, standing on a bench, because they used to surround the Chassidim, and from time to time he takes out a little piece of paper and he writes something down. And he's listening to the Farbrengen. Notes, he's taking notes. And Reb Shlomo Moshe looked at the guy and says, this guy is not a stranger. I have definitely met him somewhere. I know the face, but he can't remember where and when did he see him. From hour to hour, from moment to moment, Reb Shlomo Moshe got stronger in his mind that even though this guy is dressed like one of the Chassidim, and when they sing, he claps his hands with closed eyes, this Jew, but he's not a guest that came to the Tzemach Tzedek. Reb Shlomo Moshe didn't take his eyes off of this guy, and he looked at him, and suddenly he noticed something else. He noticed that Lipa the Candlemaker and this guy are blinking, giving signals with their eyes one to another. So he right away knew, Shlomo Moshe knew right away, these guys have some kind of a business together. They're doing something together. And in the meantime, Shlomo Moshe, it hit him. He remembered who this guy is. This guy is Binyamin the Mumar. Mumar means an apikoros. Binyamin the apikoros. Listen to what kind of guy he was. He was a spy for the Goyish government, for the police chief in, I don't remember which city. We'll soon see. When Shlomo Moshe remembered suddenly who this guy is, he trembled. First of all, now he knows that this Lipa that everybody talks about, a candlemaker, is a spy. And they're trying to make a trap for the Tzemach Tzedek, and specifically, right? And all the Chassidim in general. This Binyamin that he recognized was famous in Vilna and all the counties surrounding it. He would put fear into people's hearts, doesn't matter Jew or non-Jew. He was a bloodsucker type of person who enjoyed when a person suffered. That kind of guy he is. Very nasty character.
That's the candlemaker?
No. This guy Binyamin who's standing by the Farbrengen and writing little notes and blinking. The Mumar, the Sapikoros. This guy Binyamin was famous in Vilna. He took revenge. In other words, he made punishments, not only for Yidden, but even for the Polish landowners. And hundreds of people were put to death by the Russian government because of this guy, and all their money, all their belongings were taken to the for the government. Why? Anytime there was even one doubt that somebody's not happy with the government over there around Vilna, they would give over to Binyamin to spy on the guy. And if he gave a report that the guy's against the government, he doesn't like the government, that many people were put to death, even Goyim. So they all were afraid of this guy. And now he's here in Lubavitch, sitting by Farbrengen. When the Farbrengen was over, Shlomo Moshe, the Chassid, went over quietly to the Rabbonim, the Chassidim, Isaac and Rebbe Mordechai, and he told them what his mission is here, why he's here in Lubavitch now. He showed them the copy privately in a private room. He showed them the copy of the information that they're giving to the government against the Tzemach Tzedek. And he told them everything, how they found out about it, and how they revealed it. And then he told them, I want to tell you something else, he said to them. I just saw a spy from the Maskilim, whose name is Binyamin the Apikoris, and he's dressed like a Chassid, and he was blinking to this Chassid, Lipa the Candlemaker. And therefore it's for sure that Lipa is a spy himself. That's what Shlomo Moshe told these two Chassidim. Reb Shlomo Moshe then left them, and he said he has to go and spy after these two people. He has to try to figure out what's going on.
Go ahead.
So the Shlomo Moshe left the two Chassidim there, and he himself went out from this Achsanya, because Lipa and Binyamin together walked away. So he followed them. It says, Chodesh Adar Sheni, the mud in Lubavitch at that time is still very deep mud. There's no paved streets, and it's the end of the winter, which is even more mud, blotus. And Lipa and Binyamin, the Apikoris, were walking calmly and slowly at the side of the road where there's less mud and not so deep. And if Shlomo Moshe is following them, it was at night, couldn't see him, I don't know what, and he's following them quite close until they came to Lipman's apartment or house, which is on the street called Seritze. This street in Lubavitch was mostly Jews, but there was one street called Seritze where the Goyim lived. And Seritze, not heart. Maybe, so he overhears, before they go into the house, this Lipa, he hears Binyamin saying to Lipa these words. He heard it from a distance. For these 2 days that I'm here in this city, he says, I was not successful in my mission. They sent me here for no reason to visit you. In 2 hours from now, I'm leaving. And when I'll come, I will testify that your reports are correct, because this Lipa couldn't find nothing against Tzemach Tzedek, because what the Chassidim did, that they made everybody believe that the Tzemach Tzedek is totally not involved in communal affairs. So I will come back, he says, this Binyamin the Apikoris, I will testify that what you reported is correct, that the Rebbe is involved in his teaching of Torah and Chassidus, and the people who do come to him asking for their private things, he has no time to get involved in community affairs. And they really meant it, because they couldn't believe that the Tzemach Tzedek is actually totally involved. But what we do report is that his hashpah, his effect on the Jewish people all over, is so powerful and so great. And you, however, he says to Lipa, you don't have to continue living here. And surely in a few weeks you can leave this, he said a nasty word, this sewage, like this cesspool, rekek. He says, you can leave this cesspool and go back to your place. He tells Lipa, this guy, Binyamin. He's talking about the lowest of the lowest. Lipa then asked Binyamin, this is all Shlomo Moshe observing it, he says to Binyamin, come into my house and let's eat together. And Binyamin said, I'm already fully satiated from these kosher foods that I ate for the last 2 days. You're talking about people who are so far off. Now I'm going to the police station, and I will wake up the Voight. Voight is one of the levels in the police over there, like a chief or something. And I will show him my credentials. This Binyamin had credentials from the highest levels of the government, because he was a spy and a musser who would put people to death, right? I will show him my credentials, and then I won't lack anything in my meal with nice, good pork. What is it called? Pig, whatever. Fat pig, he says. I'll be able to eat. This is what this guy is saying. Reb Shlomo Moshe immediately snuck away from there, went back to Rabbi Tzemach Tzedek and Baruch Mordechai and told him exactly what he heard. Rabbi Tzemach Tzedek and Baruch Mordechai told him that the reason they're in Lubavitch now, this is other Sheni, it's not a Yontif, but it's Purim, but it's not a special Yontif that Chassidim come. We're here, they said to him, because 3 weeks ago we were both interrogated by the secret police of the Tsar, Department number 3, if you remember. Each one of us in their city. Rabbi Tzemach Tzedek lived in Hommel, and Rabbi Baruch Mordechai lived in Babruisk, and we were both interrogated by the police about what is the Muhusa, who is the Tzemach Tzedek? What's the Tzemach Tzedek all about? You hear this? And how does he take care of Judaism, Jewish matters? And does he try to help the Jews, physically, materially, to give them jobs? Because they all knew that Tzemach Tzedek made sure a lot of Yidden had parnaseh. And how about their moral situation to help them out? So we came now to the Tzemach Tzedek here in Lubavitch to discuss with him. They're investigating him and they're interrogating us, and we've got to be ready for anything. The next afternoon, after this particular story, Avram, the tax collector, a Jew from Lubavitch, came and secretly told the Gabbai of the Tzemach Tzedek, whose name was Reb Chaim Ber. He was the first Gabbai of the Tzemach Tzedek. Gabbai Rishon, if it means the first or it means the closest, I don't know. But he was the Tzemach Tzedek's Gabbai, that's for sure. So this Reb Avram, the tax collector, came to the Gabbai of the Tzemach Tzedek. He didn't know about the Tzemach Tzedek and the Baruch Mordechai. And he says, listen, about an hour ago, the Voit from the police station, this officer called Danila, came to visit me. This Danila, he said, the Friedrich describes, this Danila from the police station in Lubavitch was a Russia, an evil person, and an enemy of the Yidden. But to one group of Yidden, he behaved very respectfully. Tzemach Tzedek and his family, he respected them. But in general, he was an evil person. There's nothing you can do about it. In those days, every official person was a person working for the Tsar. And you had to respect him. You couldn't do anything about it. It's not like independent. It's not like a police station is independent. This is a Tsar's person, and if you disrespect him, you're going against the Tsar. Anyway, so Danila came to visit Avram, the tax collector, and told him, listen, I have something secret to tell you. Last night, someone came to me in the police station, in the police station, and banged on the window very strong, and called out in a commanding voice to open up immediately. So Danila says, I told the police to open up the door. How frightened I was, says Danila to Rabbi Avram, the tax collector, to see a Jew come in, looks like one of the guests that came to the Rebbe, with a bag, a sack on his shoulder, and he tells me in a commanding voice, come into a room immediately, I got to talk to you, or send the police out of here, because I have a secret to tell you. As he's talking to me, says Danila to Avram, the tax collector, he shows me his credentials, his card, his FBI card, And I saw that he is an official secret spy and musser from the Russian government. And I started trembling, says Danila, this police officer, the chief. I gave him immediately a special room. He changed his clothes. He was dressed like a chassid. And he demanded to give him food. He ate and he drank, and he started asking me questions about the Rabbin, Tzemach Tzedek, and told me nobody should ever find out that I visited this station. And before, early in the morning, this is the next day that this Danila came to Avram. Early in the morning, he told me I should provide him with a good wagon and good horses to travel from here to the city of Lozny, to the police station in Lozny. It was like an FBI agent. And now, says Danila to this Avram, the tax collector, I want you to go immediately and tell the Rabbin, the Tzemach Tzedek, the whole story, but in great secret. And remember, be careful, because surely you didn't forget who Danila is. Friedrich Rebbe says, a short while before that, this Danila had put Avram, the tax collector, in prison for 2 days. was a nasty character, most probably to press some money out of him. So he tells this Avram, you better go to the rabbin, and don't forget who Daniel is. I'm sure you remember.
He put you in jail.
Huh?
He put him in jail.
For 2 days. Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac and Rabbi Baruch Mordechai, they told the Tzemach Tzedek everything that's going on about these secret spies, as Reb Shlomo Moshe told them. And after that, Reb Shlomo Moshe was called into the Tzemach Tzedek's room, and he told his mission from Vilna, everything that happened. The Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe, decided that nobody besides his son, Reb Baruch Sholem, who the Alter Rebbe originally, when he was still a little kid, the Alter Rebbe blessed him with a strong heart. Because from what I understand, again, it doesn't say clearly, is that if the rest of the family finds out what's going on, all these wars against Tzemach Tzedek, all these mysteries and all this information,
It's off.
dead.
Looks like that, yeah, bang. Okay.
All the whatchamacallit, all these things against the Tzemach Tzedek, if the family finds out about it, who knows what's going to happen? You know, they're going to start fainting. It's a terrible, scary thing. But Baruch Sholem, Tzemach Tzedek's oldest son, was benched by the Alter Rebbe with a strong heart, to have a strong heart. So besides him, nobody should know about it. And then Tzemach Tzedek said they should behave towards this Lippman Feldman just like until now, so he has no material to give over. 2 weeks later, this Lippman came to Baruch Sholem, like Shlomo Moshe reported that Binyamin told him. 2 weeks later, he came and said, I got news from my home, where I live, that I must travel back, I don't know for how much time. And therefore, I want to sell my candle company cheap to somebody. And one of the Balabatim, one of the people that live in the city of Lubavitch, whose name is Rabbi Avram Shilover, Shilover is a street name in Lubavitch. There's one street called Shilover Street. Shilover usually means school street. School street. Shilover. A shila is a school in Russian Yiddish, whatever it is. But I don't know why. Anyway, so this Balabos. Shula, yeah, Shula, Shilover. So this Balabos from Lubavitch, Avram, who's a chassid, real chassid, bought Lippman's part of the business, and he's leaving. So that's what happened in 3 years before the conference, how they spied after the Tzemach Tzedek. But that's not the end. This is Chodesh Adar Sheni. Let's say, what is it, January, February, March, yeah? In May of that year, in the month of May, the head of the secret police of the entire county where Lubavitch is, I don't know which, it's I don't know. He was called a gendarmsky officer, an officer. A gendarme is the police officer, but he's a special guy. He was commanded by the government to move he should move over to live with 2 helpers in the city of Lubavitch. Lubavitch is a dot, not even a dot on the map. And yet, it's like an Eretz Yisrael, you know, small little country, and everybody has their hands in it. They told this chief of police, this big guy from the secret police, to move into Lubavitch with 2 helpers, and he lived, where did he move in? On the street called Zarieche. Zarieche is the street I drove into from Rudnia. This is the street that, so let's say if this is Lubavitch, there's a street that goes out to Rudnia, 10 miles, and from Rudnia, you go make a right, and you go straight back to Moscow. 6 hours driving. So this is, Lubavitch has another, huh? Yeah, Baruch Hashem, a few years ago. Lubavitch has another street that goes out, but I don't know where to. Maybe it's like a road or something. So he says that this guy, this chief of the secret police in that area, moved into that street, and him and one of his helpers spoke Yiddish. Do you hear this? There's a Russian goyim, they spoke Yiddish. How? I don't know. And constantly would visit the Zal of the Rebbe's Zal, where they sit and learn. He would go into he'd go into, he doesn't mean the Zal. He would go into the room where the guests come before Yechidus, the Gan Eden HaTachten, you hear this? And he would check out all the guests that come in there. And he would go into the yeshiva, and he would go in there when the Tzemach Tzedek said a mimer, and he was always dressed like a person, like a private person. They knew who he was, but he was dressed like a private person. So if any guests want to talk to him, they feel comfortable. Besides, certain times, like Sundays, he would dress with all his uniform, And any other holiday, the Goyish holiday, he would dress with his uniform. The Tzemach Tzedek had a chassid. We're just trying to get us closer and closer to this conference. Tzemach Tzedek had a chassid called Rabbi Yisrael Chaikin. I don't know if he's connected to the Chaikins of today, but maybe. He came from Neville, and he went to Petersburg. He was one of those spies who was dealing with ministers, getting close to them, and he got very friendly with the assistant of the interim, what is it called? Interior minister, whose name was an assistant of the interior. The interior minister was these were powerful ministers, but this was an assistant called Androtov. So this Rabbi Yisrael Chaikin got friendly with him. Tov Reish Aleph, this is the next year, Tzemach Tzedek sent, I'm just saying how Tzemach Tzedek was so involved in everything, 15,000 silver rubles to Eretz Yisrael, Tzemach Tzedek sent. Some of it was to pay back debts from the tzedakah that he owed, because they couldn't afford until now, but now he was able to. And the Tzemach Tzedek also founded a shul called Meis Knesset Chabad in Yerushalayim. Another shul he founded in Tzfas and in Tveria. And the Tzemach Tzedek sent 15,000 silver ruble to divide it amongst all the Chabad members in Eretz Yisrael. In the city of Borisov at that time, there were two people that caused everyone to tremble. They were very bad sinners, kidnappers, who were called by the Chassidim and by all the Yidden, they were called Zundel, that was his first name, Mazik, that was not his real last name, Mazik means a destroyer, and Isaac Chap means a kidnapper. And they went, in which city? In Borisov. They went to the local police and informed against the Tzemach Tzedek that the Tzemach Tzedek is hiding 30 boys that were supposed to be in the army, and they stole them back from the Russian army, and Tzemach Tzedek is holding them in Lubavitch in his yeshiva, which thank God wasn't true. It was true that Tzemach Tzedek kept on taking children back and saving them. And so even though this chief of the secret police was living in Lubavitch to spy on the Rebbe, new detectives, new FBI agents from the Russian government came, from the city of Babinovich, from Mohilev, and one night a whole group of them came, and they surrounded the whole house of the Tzemach Tzedek, and the yeshiva, and there's two shuls in the city of Lubavitch they surrounded. They investigated everybody's papers, everybody's, not passports, but birth certificates, every Talmud in the yeshiva, every guest. Why? Because these guys said that Tzemach Tzedek has 30 children there that are from the army. They investigated, they searched in regular hosts' houses, in the homes of all the sons of the Tzemach Tzedek for 3 days, night and day, and they found zero, nothing. But the spy that informed everything, whose name was Gavrilov, he was the one there that this Isaac Chap and Zundel Mazik gave over the reports against Tzemach Tzedek. He said to the detectives, the police, secret police, I am sure, he said, that this document that those two bad guys in Borisov gave is definitely 100% true. One of them was called Maitin, Zundel Maitin, and Isaac Ginsburg. It's 100% true. And if they didn't find now anything about the Tzemach Tzedek, they're going to find it eventually. That's what he said. And they, Baruch Hashem, didn't find it. Tzemach Tzedek organized everything to be in a very special way. So what happens now is, we're going to go next, the next major story is about this conference. This conference was a mind-boggling happening. A conference that was supposed to take 10 days, took 3 and something months, because the government had to arrest Tzemach Tzedek every few days, for a few days. And it was unbelievable. It was thrown off kilter, But before that, I'm going to make an intermission. And I'm going to tell a story of a chassid that went to the Tzemach Tzedek as a 6-year-old kid, approximately. And it is just, first of all, it gives a beautiful picture of Chassidim in those days. Just a beautiful picture where Lubavitch today comes from. Everybody who has any connection to Lubavitch and learns a sikha, a maimer, what was going on in those days amongst Chassidim. Second of all, you see the refinement of the Chassidim, how nice they were and good they were. And when Tzemach Tzedek went to his meeting, it made the Chassidim to be so on edge. They were so nervous for the Tzemach Tzedek. It was mamish scary. And there's like a story that Tzemach Tzedek, they prayed for him. They felt very bad that the Tzemach Tzedek is going in such dangerous places. Tzemach Tzedek told the Chassidim once, when they asked what they can do, he said, it is known that when you bring a child to Cheder, it reveals lots of merits, lots of schusim from heaven. After he said that, Friedrich Rebbe writes that, Chassidim all over Russia would go and help other people, just not to first time in Cheder, just to bring kids to Cheder. They would go and help everybody, like busing them, bring the children to Cheder, their own children, to carry them. They carry them like as if they're carrying a box with diamonds, because of the Tzemach Tzedek's word, which shows you how the Chassidim's heart fluttered, knowing that the Tzemach Tzedek is in danger. So we're going to talk about a story that's happened exactly 11 years before this conference, which means a few years, like 8-9 years before this particular story. And we'll talk about it in the next time. I must say that story. I can't hold myself in. It is just a beauty of a story. It most probably will take us at least 2 sessions. But in Yitzhak Hashem, we'll try to do that with Hashem's help. Thank you everyone very much. Mashiach now.